Hi everyone, I hope you're well, thanks for clicking on the video. UFC 280 is just around the corner and the main event is Charles Oliveira versus Islam Makhachev, and holy shit, this is going to be fireworks, guys. For some strange reason, there's still a significant amount of fans that are doubting Charles Oliveira and his capabilities as a champion, which to me is just mind-boggling and makes absolutely no sense. And there's a lot of people that think that Charles still has a lot of quit in him. And like I said, I don't agree with that. I don't see how that can be your verdict, especially after seeing Charles's last 3 performances in particular. It's just ridiculous. But Islam Makhachev has that style to make you want to quit, right? If anyone's going to make you quit, it's going to be a man like Islam. A man that's going to take you down over and over again and just maul you for as long as the fight goes on for, as long as you can hold out. There's a lot of similarities between Islam and Khabib. I would actually say that despite Islam having a knockout loss on his record, he's actually the better striker than Khabib. And another thing that I think is crazy, which I heard from Islam's coaches actually, is that while Islam hasn't faced the same caliber of opponent as Charles has, I think we can all agree on that. Like, if you compare even just their last 3 opponents to one another, it's night and day. You know, Islam's fighting good guys, but Charles Oliveira is fighting the #1 contender now, right? Back to back, and now again. So yeah, the caliber of opponent these guys have been facing is not on the same level. Charles is, you know, night and day in comparison to Islam's. But that's very similar to Khabib on his way up in the UFC, and it's his coaches that pointed that out to me. Khabib didn't start fighting top tier opponents until after he had won the belt, right? Because he won it off of facing Ali Aquinta, who's a great fighter, but he's not a championship level fighter, right? And it wasn't until after he won the belt that they started feeding him #1 contenders, and everyone realised that Khabib was the real deal because he was finishing the #1 guys, and actually he was finishing them faster and faster each time. And you know, I think Islam's coaches were right to point out that comparison, and hopefully Islam can live up to the hype that, you know, Khabib and his team have built up around Islam. It's a lot of pressure to have to live up to, you know, being, you know, Khabib, arguably one of the greatest of all time, you know, to be his protege, that's a heck of a lot of pressure. So hopefully Islam can deal with it. He's fighting in Abu Dhabi, he's on his turf, right? But he is fighting an absolute killer on a warpath right now in Charles Oliveira. It's nice to see Charles Oliveira getting more respect from the MMA community since becoming champion, but it still baffles me how much disrespect this man gets, right? They say he's still got a lot of quit in him. You know, they point out his fights against Max Holloway and who else, Cub Swanson, from way back in the day, from where perhaps those stoppages were a little sus. You know, it seemed as though maybe he could have hung in there a little longer than he did. But man, that was so many years ago at this point. And in MMA, if you keep training as consistently as Charles has, you keep training, keep fighting, you are going to evolve as a fighter. And it was the first time I noticed that against Kevin Lee. I thought, man, Charles Oliveira, when did this happen? You know, he's so slick on the feet now. And dear God, if he goes to the ground, like as you can see here, he has always been dangerous. And in fact, now he's more dangerous than ever. And with that combination of being lightning quick on the feet, constantly pushing pressure himself and throwing a wide variety of shots. Like, Charles is great at picking his shots nicely, and you don't know what kind of shot he's going to throw. He's very wild on the feet, and it's not until lately that he's been getting that credit, you know. And in particular, if you look at his performances in his last 3 fights against Michael Chandler, Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje, how can you doubt this man? He got dropped in all of those fights, right, against guys that he was the underdog in. All 3 of those, I'm pretty sure he was the betting underdog. And he gets put down and rises like fucking Nazareth, you know what I mean? Rises, continues to pile on that pressure on his opponents until they either make a mistake on the feet and he capitalizes on it there, or they make a grave decision in shooting for a desperate takedown, or maybe they make the mistake of giving you their back. It's like, Charles Oliveira is just so dangerous wherever the fight goes, right? And he's a finisher. That's what I love most about Charles, is that he finishes these guys, and he's doing it, in my opinion, in a more impressive manner than what Khabib was finishing them, right? So I think if Charles can go out there and beat Islam the way I think he's going to, I think he has to be considered as the greatest lightweight champion of all time. So with that being said, let's dive more into my prediction and how I think this fight is going to end. I definitely see Charles getting the finish here, right? I don't see this fight going the full distance. If it does go the full distance, I think we may have to give the decision edge to Islam, because the only way it will go the full distance is if Islam manages to just control Charles. I just think Charles is way too dangerous for those positions for Islam to either want to stay there or to not get caught after a while. I think Islam's game plan has to be to take Charles down, because if he stays standing, Charles has the advantage in my opinion. He will light Islam up on the feet, right? Mark my words. And when this fight eventually goes to the ground, I think it's inevitable that it will. Charles's takedown defense, I don't think, will be good enough to keep Islam off of him for the full 5 rounds if it goes that long, which, like I said, I don't think it will. I think Islam is going to learn quick that Charles isn't to be fucked with. Even when you're on top in side control or top mount, he's so crafty off of his back. He can sweep you, he can throw up just awkward submissions that you don't even know like how he caught it, right? Like, it's all like a chess game to this guy on the ground, and I don't think that Islam is fully prepared for it. So yeah, I see Charles finishing Islam either with a guillotine in like the 2nd round or 3rd round, because like I said, I think Charles is going to light him up on the feet and may even force like a desperate shot out of Islam, and that will be Islam's last mistake in a fight if that's what happens, right? I think Charles is too good to not take advantage of that. Or perhaps Charles catches him off of his back at a similar time in the fight, you know, end of the 2nd, midway through the 3rd. Or finally, perhaps he could even light Islam up on the feet early on. I think that's a general, like, coming into this fight, Charles is predicting that he'll finish Islam in the 1st round on the feet. And I just think that is entirely possible. So don't be surprised if that happens. That brings us to the end of the video, guys. If you enjoyed, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel for more UFC content. Leave a comment down below if you have any thoughts and opinions on the fight, and I'd love to get back to you when I have the time. Thank you.